There is no one way to priestess. In this modern world, the professional priestess isn't just reclaiming her power, she's owning her right to be seen, supported, and supremely resourced. Money, visibility, the team, devotion, she gets to have it all. Because her work is the work, and the world is catching up, learning that your presence is absolutely priceless. Because when she thrives, the medicine multiplies. I'm your host, Lindsay Schroeder, and I'll be connecting you with the sacred alchemists at the forefront of the feminine revolution. The modern priestess, she's building her empire through her essence. This is the space for those ready to return to the temple, the one that lives deep within. I am so excited to announce that the Professional Priestess podcast is welcoming onto our show Priestess Kelsey Isis. Welcome, Kelsey.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. I am so excited to be here. So grateful and honored to just step into reverence and honor with you and really hold space in this priestess container. I'm celebrating your incredible creation and offering into this world, and love that we get to share in it together.
I'm so excited. It's like pouring out of me with such intensity. And the fact that I had a microdose this morning, I'm just like,
I can feel everything.
song is like oozing out of my pores.
Yep. Mine's the cacao, of course. You know me, my rose cup.
Deep in our sacraments. So
Absolutely.
I would love to help those who are listening understand why I'm like, because of who you are and what you are and the power of your priestesshood and what your priestesshood has been birthing. So give us just a tiny little stardust fleck about you and who you are and what you do. Welcome us
Stunning.
in.
Okay. Distilling it down, right, into all of the magic. So I am Kelsey Isis, and I consider myself a multi-dimensional priestess. So working with the weave and textures and connections, points between the somatic, the felt, the senses, and how that really resonates in our material life, and then in our sensual embodied experience and how we feel internally, and then also the multidimensional realms of what goes beyond, of our cosmos, of our ancient and future lineages that actually come together and help to support who we are right here, right now, and why magic is so consistent and actually sacred in everyday life by bridging this gap between working with the plants and getting our hands dirty and very alchemical in the elements, but also working with the stars and the cosmos and our planetary beings that come in to support us in our evolution. And it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride to be that shamanic bridge, right, between the ethereal and the material. And that has really created so much of who I am and why I devote myself to this path all day, every day. And it started so young in my life that it has been nothing but me and this exploration of remembering.
Mm. I feel like you turn into the little kitty, like making biscuits when you talk. I'm like, yeah, like just riding the velvet wave of like, oh,
Done.
that is so luscious and juicy. And one of the pieces that I really want to point out for people is that you speak the language of astrology, like how I state it is as a first language. Where like that is a language that you were born into, and you and my other in-house astrologer are the only two astrologers I've ever met who hold that vibration. And that's why you two are the ones that I go to, where I'm like, you speak through and express the planets. Like there are times where you're talking and I'm like, hello, Jupiter. Nice to see you again. We're like, you're not.
Yep.
reading off of something. You're not like, oh, I plug it in here and you're like speaking for. I've never witnessed anyone channel the planets and let the planet be there so present. So when you're saying this, like, I'm this bridge and I am so multidimensional and I'm bringing it through, I not only hear it, but I feel it so deeply. And it like gets me in this little like trance state.
Thank you. Thank you for that reflection back. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. And that is exactly how it feels in my body too. Like I do channel the planets. Yes. And
Yes.
so even when clients come to me and they're all like, okay, so you read astrology, I'm like, yes, and it's a both and because have I trained to study charts? Yes, of course I have, because I love astrology and all things cosmic. And yet, it was a huge part of my journey. So it's so alive in me. And then when I started channeling the planets down, and I'll be in a reading and Mars is in the room, and then all of a sudden it's
Yeah.
coming through me, right? And it is something that's been more difficult to explain to those that don't have the same felt sense as you are having, right? Of what is happening as I just open up this so I could study, but also like I don't check in on like a thing every day to see exactly what the planets are doing or where. I just ask them. I
Yeah.
literally, yeah, I
Yeah.
just am like, oh, okay, who wants to be communicating with me today, right? And what is the most potent in the sky? And there is such a beautiful reflection and like digestibility that comes with that then, and that of like putting words to the wordless. I didn't always realize that was my gift, and
Yes.
yet it is, and it pours through, and I love it. And that's part of the
Yeah.
priestesshood. You do
Yeah.
that all the time, right? And really surrendering into that and finding our threads to then like offer it to the world is just such a divine space. And I love how much we can share in those and like pull in our own little bits of magic and then create a whole offering, just so people can like feel something or understand something that isn't so tangible.
Mm-hmm. My entire being like sunk its teeth into words to the wordless. That is so resonant for me because so much of I feel the modern day challenge of being a priestess is that we are outside of this, like everyone understands, like everyone in the tribe used to understand, oh, when this starts manifesting, like, oh, we're gonna like she's the baby shaman, let's send her over here. And now we are so removed from each other and yet so connected through the internet that like putting words to the wordless, naming that which you can't, like a word name isn't enough and it will never be enough. And yet it is our jobs. It's literally our professional jobs to like put onto this what we know and we acknowledge and we sit in deep reverence for. I know this will never be enough. I know this is not it. We're not trying to like confine it. We're translating it for others because sometimes all it takes is that person hearing it in a word that they couldn't craft, that they couldn't find, that they from the energy into the matter, like we birth it into the matter. And a lot of times then they're going, oh, yeah, a little bit different, or oh, but they have something to then like grab onto and explore and hold in their hand and hear with their ears and see with their eyes. So
Mm.
like you said that and I went, yes, we need to talk about that more. So tell us more about what putting words to the wordless means for you in your practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And as you were sharing that already, it was like opening up inside of me because that is, I think, the beautiful part of, as you said, like this is our profession. Like we have decided and chosen into the path of the priestess to offer this to the world. And so for me, that also is being in the subtle body, really knowing my own energy field so intimately that when planetary energies, cosmic energies, ancient energies, goddess energies, whatever it is, comes through. And also, then I sit with someone, a client, someone looking for guidance, right? Whoever that is, that I can tune into their subtle body so that I have this thread essentially, and I consider myself a weaver. So I do actually like feel and sense and see these different threads of energetics, right? And I know some people will be like, oh yeah, me too. And others maybe it just sparks some curiosity.
Yeah.
So but like that, what is my thread inherently? And then what is someone who sits with me? And then whatever is coming through to speak with them. And
Mhm.
this is where there is wordless, and then they need words, right? And
Mhm.
so bringing those threads together, it's going to be different for each and every person thread that comes in that wants the guidance, right? And so for me and my practice, that's about getting still enough, getting reverent enough, getting in a space that just like surrenders my own self into the crucible of listening, right? And really taking that and putting it to the words that that person, that soul is
Yes.
going to hear. And
Yeah.
that changes each and every time with each and every person. And in even that same person at different stages, a week apart. You know, like you're in a container with a client and a month from now, they need to hear it in a different way, even if it's a similar topic, right?
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of coming into really letting the energy speak. And then I almost essentially like create or allow this dance to happen with whatever wants to be spoken into their energy. And then it just channels through. Then the words are just potent and they're there. And how I'm gonna say them just comes out. And that's where I'm like, it's not of me. It comes through me. Like I have the knowledge
Mhm.
to back it up, though beyond that point it's me and the goddess or whomever, right? Like in that container to really have this deeper conversation, and then the words just get created. And I love when it even shocks me, right? When I'm like, "Oh, that was potent." I
Yeah.
like that came through and people really feel that. And that even I think is a great point to add in is yes, we're putting words to the wordless because it's felt. There's also a felt sense underneath the words that's filling in the gaps that works more in the subconscious
Yes.
with people. And
Yeah.
that part is is almost more important, but it does balance it out
Mhm.
because there is, then they get like this curiosity that moves through them. And then that takes them beyond the words. You've given the brain, the logic, a little bit to like
Mhm.
savor on. And then the rest is like, oh, but I'm awakening. I'm feeling something bigger. And then that, opens up another container. And it's stunning. It's one of my favorite
The words are the vehicle. And you're like,
things.
I jam pack into that car so much in there. And like that is like there has to be some form of thing, some contain something that they can grab onto. And for a lot of people, it is I need a word. I need my brain to have something to understand so that then I can sink further in. And it's about us
Seriously.
being that bridge and being that like okay, yeah, I can adapt and adjust and flow with you. And I love how you language yours of the threads because being like a little spideress myself, that was one of the first things where like you and then another friend of yours start reference the threads all the time. And I'm like, yeah, you guys see me like literally tapping on my threads and like sending it out as vibrations out there. And because we both have that similar medium, we can like recognize that in each other. Mm, the
Yeah.
threads, the words. Ugh. So I have
Yep,
more
it's funny.
questions for like to be able to give people a view inside that experience. And you and I actually did a recording before that was about what actually happens in a session with a priestess. Because I think one of the
Mhm.
things when you talk about us being professional priestesses, very few people are sitting Googling what we are and what we offer with clarity of like, I'm looking for a blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm looking for a thread weaver who can unweave the like planetary influence and my mother's influence and my this and my that so that I can see what is mine. And what, like, I get that ChatGPT is much more expansive than Google, guys, but like it's really hard to put that whole thing into the search engine and have it spit back out, oh, you should go see Kelsey Isis for a priestess service. So I really want to give people the like part the veil and let them see into this thing that you offer, this thing that you are, and what it can do and what it has done. Also with the extreme reverence that like it is so unique to each person that again, we're putting words to it, but what you're feeling underneath, that's the truth of like what it could be, what it is for you. Not just what you're hearing, not just someone else's experience, not just what she's provided for someone else or held for another, but like what you feel, the parts of you that are like, oh, I would want that. And you start to like picture and expand and experience what it could feel like for you.
Mhm. Mm.
Mm.
I'm feeling that for me right now.
Right?
So thank
You're
you.
like,
Thank you
I
for the
want
felt
a session with
experience.
me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And oh, where do I start?
Right?
Delicious, right? It is such a felt experience, yet okay, so coming into relationship with wanting to explore something. So a client essentially would come to me for a myriad of things, yes. And often there is a initial gateway of wanting to either go through astrology, since we've touched on that already. I also specialize in somatic therapy in the body and deal a lot with the heart center, and then how that coherently works with the brain, the womb, the yoni, like all of the body as a whole. Though often I go through the heart gate first with people because that is where we create our layers of protection and safety or survival. The pains, everything has been kind of like built up in that space, right? And so opening and softening into that is something that I deeply love to create a spaciousness for. And then dealing with the pain body in a trauma informed way is something that I personally have taken myself through on so much of my journey. And a bit we've tapped into a session of just like going into the pain body. Um, and so on the spectrum of that is often where people kind of find me, and then that'll open up deeper, as you know, into what it really means to be sitting with a priestess in that way. And so heart medicine is definitely, I think, again, the deepest path to an awakening journey. And what does that really mean for people? And so that's a spectrum of having like deep somatic practices. I do hands-on body work. So it's essentially like you're coming in for a massage, and yet we're working on all the layers of your body, your auric field, your past lives. Like there is a hands-on experience to be tangible, to feel some physical relief in the physical form, yet then beyond that, and I think that's part of what I heard in your even question, is like that's a felt sense that goes deeper, that pulls through these threads of past timelines and future timelines and starts to reconcile where these potential ailments, pains, invitations, lessons in the body start to really come through, and the body keeps the score, right? Like it is absolutely getting little attentive notices here in our physical form, especially in this modern day experience of being human and divine, right? Like how else does it get your attention when we bypass, unconsciously even, a lot of the other subtle body hints from spirit, from our DNA recoding, from our cellular memory, but then our mass, our carbon body is like, oh, okay, I'll show that to you as a pain, a dis-ease, a discomfort, a closing, like, so that's where going into session I look for those kind of like pain points for a
Yeah.
point, because like they're so communicative, but also then like, oh, I'm connecting with these beings or energetics or something when I'm meditating. What is that? And then taking people through astral travel, energy track. So I can energy track whether it's a shamanic journeying and like soul regression, or into future timelines and higher self connections, portals, things like that. and really cultivate how to bring that again physically and somatically back into the body. So it's not just heady, higher chakra, I'm blasting out. We're also working on the descension. We're coming back into the body. We're getting back into the hara, the sacral, the womb center, and really like feeling how we create from all of these spaces into physical form. And there's often a disconnect because we're not taught to feel those things. And
Mhm.
that's where I like to get in and really be encompassing and a safe place for people to feel that physically, because that is so important in this experience. And also, how does that work in the energetics? And that I do that even in a sense of being online and in a container. Like it doesn't have to all be hands on, but it also can be. And that's another layer. And it's something that I find so much exploration in. And people are consistently getting different feedback of like, oh I feel this new safety in my body. There's all this new awakening coming through. It feels like a hug for my heart and my soul. That's one of my favorite feedbacks after a heart dearmoring is like, just feels like you're hugging my heart. I'm like, I love that. I am.
You're like, I'm doing a good job. Let me pat myself on the back. That's what you're experiencing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. The first thing I want to ask is how do you know where to start? How do you decide in, say, maybe a session? And I want to add this caveat that, like, as priestesses, yes, we might offer individual sessions, but the depth of work is typically done in like program offerings because one sitting with us is, yes, it can be cataclysmic and it can change everything, but like we are thorough beings and there is an integration and an embodiment aspect. But like when someone's coming to you, maybe with a very like limited language to like, oh, I'm dealing with this pain or this is manifesting in this way, or even someone who knows like, oh, I'm looping or I'm in this pattern. And everything that you just described, you're like, aware of, tapping into, seeing, speaking to, moving through. What's your own priestess process for like how you work in that? Because that being out of space and time, and like I've been there in the out of space and time with you, and I was just floored with how you navigate.
Mm, mm. Thank you. Thank you. Ooh, I have chills. Um, this is beautiful. So
You're like,
part
I
of how,
love this
yeah,
question.
I
I
love
love
this
looking at
question.
my own practice in this
Yeah.
way. Like, where do I? Hey guys.
Where do I start? Because a lot of it is felt. And yeah, I know you know that, though there is also an answer to this question, right?
Huh?
I love the both and the paradox divinity, she lives there. And so being let's speak to the logic piece for a second. Like, being that I am a trauma informed shamanic, like sexologist therapist, like I have this background that speaks to what is actually going on with someone physiologically and then psychology, like mentally, what is coming up here. And so often when a client comes to me, even with a little nugget of what's going on, or I just like meet someone out in public and they're, drawn to the priestess energy because that happens. And it's like, oh, there's this, right? So
Mhm.
I find the nugget and then sitting down with someone, I love to really let them guide the energy field. So, and often that comes with what's the most alive for you right now? And how do they respond? And then when they respond, what I'm actively doing is actively listening to the words they say. And like, yes, there's a big picture of when someone's offering like a hardship or an ailment or a pain or something like that. Like, you go to the doctor, you're like, oh yeah, this hurts, it hurts here, da 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 da. But what's being said underneath that? Where's the body language? And so I'm watching the entire experience happen, whether it's digitally or in front of me. There are certain cues when you say certain words that the body starts to do and offer. That's when I like click in one of my weaves to
Yep.
something as I'm still actively listening, because maybe they're talking for a full 10-15 minutes, right?
Yep.
And then I have key points that I've registered or written down if I need to, um, questions to deepen some of these meanings. And then from there, I surrender into the path of like the divine that's channeling through me, I think is the best way for me to say that. And so if it's digitally like this, then it's a series of curiosity questions, and then we usually go into like a shamanic journey practice. And then in that is when my energy tracking that I've mentioned comes into play. And so I then put myself into my own deep meditative space. So if I'm guiding you through a guided meditation experience, I'm closing my eyes and going right there with you.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm opening the container, but then within my gifts, I'm seeing what you're seeing on some level, right? It might not be exact, of course, because magic, but the energy lines are there. And then I can follow them. And I have to just surrender fully into trust when it comes to that point, because then it doesn't logically need to make sense to me. Sometimes I can find it and be like, oh, yeah, of course, we're going to go here, here, and here, but I don't know the backstory of most people, right? So that's where there is such a surrender. And if it's in person, I'm in the energy field of the body, and that's where like you and I experience that, right? And going in and just softening, and I then find almost like the most lit up area, right? Like I see it as usually like light pulses.
Okay.
Or if it's a darkness pulse, something like that. But there's usually a thread to which I can find that one and understand that that's where someone is asking for help, is asking and inviting me to go deeper. And then I pull into that one. And then we go and we get curious about what is there and how to unpack that. So there is so much importance to me to let another being, a client, to lead the container, to
Yeah.
offer up underneath what they're saying, because it usually is more subconscious than that. And I have fine-tuned again in that subtle body to hear what's there, and then letting body language, body talk, and the energy threads actually communicate and take me farther to find what's really going on.
Yeah. One of the other pieces that, as a priestess, you touched on that I think not a lot of people outside of the profession, even if you've been in a session or a ceremony with one, you don't really like hear this language often. So I want to really talk about this. You talked about being both the container and in the container at the same
Mhm.
time, and what that takes as a practitioner, both safety wise, sovereignty wise, being able to hold that in addition to the logical pieces that you're mentioning of like being trauma informed and understanding both the somatic and the subconscious and the etheric. Tell us more about being the container, the set and the setting, and being in your own container. Talk to us about this meta aspect that not many people language.
Absolutely. Who? Okay, let's pull in the words for that.
Like,
Um,
let's
mm.
go, babe.
There, oh wow, that's
Right? I
potent.
see us like putting on our sweatbands like we're Jane Fonda, like working out again of like, come on, guys, let's go.
I absolutely love this. And you have such a gift for finding these nuggets of
Yeah,
gold. You do. You have such
like
a gift for it.
that.
And I love it. That's the thing. That's
Yeah.
the thing people are curious about, but don't know they're curious about, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it is vital.
Yeah.
Man, is it vital in our experience. And I think that just to yeah, it feels alive to like preface
Yeah.
that it's vital when you're working in a container with a priestess, even if like someone listening to this doesn't come to us, right? Like, but there is a difference between I'm a space holder
Yes.
and I will guide you through that space as well.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is so different. And there are incredible space holders
Yes.
in the world.
Mm,
They don't all hold space and be able to hold you through an experience. And
yeah.
that's okay. But
Mhm.
it is a whole different energy that we in professional priestessing come in and can do both. And it takes a different level of awareness of our own field. Personally, it takes a different awareness of my own experience and energy field, right? So clearing and holding the energy, being sovereign and open to where I'm facilitating, like setting sacred container, setting the energy, clearing the space, doing so much energetic acknowledgement and what we would call work. Sure, it is work, right?
Yeah.
To cleanse, clear, and sanctify this area that we are going to hold space in. Again, whether it's digitally, especially if it's digitally with all the
Yes.
threads out there, like this
Yeah.
takes a lot to keep this place safe and sacred. And the amount of just consistent clearing and knowing our energy as a portal, that's huge too. My energy is a portal in so many ways, and I am 100% conscious about that. If I am opening up sacred energy space for someone else, and then again going to bilocate my energy field, and that's how the words and terminology I put to it, because I also guide and teach this to others.
Yes.
And so, in the realms of astral travel, is where I practice this diligently in bilocating my energetic field. And that's something somebody can, like, Google what's bilocating,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so, I am in two places at the same time. I can do more than two, but
Yeah.
just for the sake of this container, this is the two.
For the subtle
And
mathematics, we'll start with 1 plus 1 equals 2. We will
yeah,
side note that it doesn't, but
it
we'll
doesn't,
start
and
there.
there are so many more. But for the sake of this conversation, let's say there's two.
Yeah.
And so the two is holding the space. And in this, like the enveloping, in what I look at as like the goddess container, the mother, like holding the space, right? And then knowing that I am grounded and anchored in that and always present in that field. And then I also have another piece of me, because we have multiple pieces of ourselves, our multiple higher selves, right? And so then a higher self version of me is also going into the container with this person, with this soul, with this energy, and is walking through. And so I'm never leaving space holding.
Yes.
And this might be like a big concept to some, which is totally fine. Though there is also a whole version of me, two whole complete
Yes.
versions that are
Yes.
going through this process to then explore and hold and experience and envelop,
Yeah.
dig, pull out that from the roots, right? Sometimes it's so cathartic for people to have this experience and then always know that like that mother goddess energy is holding them as well. And I do work very closely with Isis, Kelsey Isis,
Mhm.
right? Like, and her wingspan is what I invoke, essentially, is my wings to hold that outward container so that the other part of me can walk with them. And there is this duality balance that is coming forward that is always, again, always safe, always grounded, always secure. And yes, it takes a lot of tools for both of those to be so balanced in the physical material body and in the ethereal magical movement energetics, and then where those two get to come back together to integrate. And that's also, we've touched on integration, but why integration is so important, because we're not fragmenting, we're not leaving parts and pieces places, we're 100% going and coming back, right? And then being in this cellular mass to actually integrate that back into physical form.
Yes.
I think that starts to answer it, maybe.
Yes. And like that is it is a skill set. It is a devotion. It is a reverence. And like when I talk about priestesses and magical workers getting paid for their services at the value of the service, well, once again, just like 1 plus 1 equals 2. No, it doesn't, but okay, for the sake of this realm, this reality on planet Earth in human form, there's no way to get paid what you're worth, so to speak. So I have so much issue with that, while also understanding that, like, we're putting words to things that have no words. We're naming things that cannot be named. And so getting to this point where we look at multifaceted, like multi-being, interdimensional, navigating outside of space and time, and healing at a core level without leaving fragments, while I'm holding the entire container, while I'm being right there with you, while I am the one who, after I start it and hold it and close it and come back, a lot of times the client's like, what just happened? Now you need to put language to that whole thing all over again. Once again, not just for yourself and what you, your priestess, know, but in a way that they can receive, in a way that they can understand, in a way that they can start to digest. And then you're having to detail out what is this integration process, because a lot of times that individual is like, whoa, like I am in the felt place and my logical mind is like, I can't keep up. And we're trying to take this thing that is life changing, trajectory altering, timeline jumping, and put it into a like, okay, well, now that you're going to be done on this little Zoom chat, here are the 3 steps that I want you to start with. Go drink some water and do this. And then how do you keep that? How do you embody that? How do you integrate? So many things. And I think just a few people being able to hear what it takes, what you're doing, how you yourself are even seeing that, allows other people, allows especially the receivers of these services, or even the people who have never considered wanting these services, going, oh wow, yeah, that I didn't know I needed or wanted that, but like I fucking want that now. But to have a respect and a reverence for it, we truly are priestesses. And it's a
Absolutely.
term
Ooh,
that the
ooh,
majority of us did not grow up thinking that a woman was or could be. And when we grew up in religion, and I know personally that Kelsey grew up Catholic, Sam is forced Catholic school girl over here, I shunned the idea of the holy even being in church. I didn't say the word God for a long time. I didn't have any relationship with like Jesus or a figurehead or these types of things. And then getting back to this place of going, oh, I'm going to claim that my professional title now is priestess, is like a whole reclamation. So we're
it
casually
really
talking
is.
on this, but it's a
Uh-huh.
whole big, hairy, audacious thing to even scratch the surface of.
Absolutely. And I know we've shared about this and have similar backgrounds in our how we were raised and just being in that. And it is a reclamation. And for so long, I was so resistant, which is wild and definitely part of my own journey of like resisting my own depth of power by really taking on a title, and like we have titles because they have power. We believe they have power. We put power to them. And so people take them, right? The Pope. That's a thing.
I'm so
And
sorry, I'm from Chicago. Kelsey gets it.
Same. So am I. And so really honoring ourselves as the priestess to put this into language and into my offering and is again my main title. And there was so long that I tried to come up with something else that
Yes.
felt right.
Yep.
And none of it was. None
Yeah.
of it was. And I had a beautiful teacher, a high priestess in my life. And there was a conversation that happened, and she is also multi-dimensional things. And this was only a handful of years ago, even, and was like, someone asked her, what are you first and foremost above everything else? And
Mhm.
she looked straight at him and said, I'm a priestess.
Yeah.
And there was just something exactly
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
shifted in me. And I was like, why am I denying this thing that is so real inside of me based on a storyline or a felt sense or the dogma and all of the things
Yeah.
that have come before it? This is the piece of returning back into self. And it starts long before someone's like, hey, I need help with something, right?
Yes.
And I want to honor that by the depth of what it really is and bringing priestesses back as they were. And I knew, and like I've known,
Uh-huh.
there's been priestesses and goddess worship long before there was a church and priests and thing, like so, right. There
And
is so
one
much
more
depth.
time. One more time. One more time. What
Bringing
are
in
we
the goddess
going through?
worship.
Came first? Which one came first? There were priestesses long before there were churches, y'all. And like it
Long.
is, even in the introduction to the podcast, I'm talking about it being a remembrance, a coming back, a calling to the temple is the temple within, the church that has no name, That is why so much of what we're talking about is naming the nameless, because we are priestesses of a lineage that has, we're not bound by a physical location, although getting to the point where we have a physical location sounds really, really nice, and we will definitely get to that because Kelsey is birthing a physical location for this type of work. Ugh.
Yes, I am.
Like being a priestess, especially in the modern times, first off, you're born typically, I know there are a few of you out there, and I would love to hear from you. If you are a lineage priestess where like your mama and your grandma and your great grandma have like ushered you into this, first off, I want to meet you because I know they're out there, but it's not as many as those of us who were plopped into our families as the little black sheep going, bah, shit, what am I going to do now? And having to like claw our way from what we were born into and find it. And that reverence and the fact that a lot of us grew up in the dogma and like rejected and had to come back to it. And I don't know about you, but for a long time at the beginning of my own spiritual awakening, I shunned the idea of being a teacher, being a leader, being a giver of this thing that I was almost like hoarding for myself. Because I was like, I fucking need it. Like, I'm not gonna, like, what do you give it to other people, teach it to other people? And then all of a sudden there was like a satiation point where I was like, oh, it's working. No, of course. It just like, it wants to flow through me. And I'm like writing these prescriptions of, oh, check out this and this and this meditation, blah, 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 after I had been like, no, I'm never going to give this.
Yeah. Stunning. Thank you for sharing that about your journey. And I do have a lot of similarity. And if for when it was coming through in my younger years, it was the when you said like I need this, that's how I felt. It was like I need this to survive. And so the idea of even sharing it felt foreign because I was like literally just trying to pour back into myself because nothing really felt real. And I went to a private Catholic school for most of my childhood, right? And it was
Yeah.
so wild to be in a space where I was like, okay, this resonates on some level, but also feels completely false.
Yeah.
Like something is real here,
Yes.
but this
This.
isn't it. This
Yes.
isn't it. And
Yes.
like I would go into churches and I'm just like floored by the magic and the majesty. And yet then there was this undercurrent of energy where I was like, but I can't relax. So I'm
Yes.
in awe, but I can't relax. I'm not
Yes.
safe here, but I
Yes.
feel like I should be safe here.
Yes.
And that made me so curious, but that wasn't something I was ever available to offer to people. I was like, oh, that's not what this is, right? Like I'm just a witch on my path. And for a long time, then I went into the occult and I was like, I'm a witch, right? And there was a whole lineage thing that came, and I needed that. And yes, I
Yes.
am.
Yep.
Though it was so much more than that. And at that time, there it was keeping me alive because I was finding my essence in it. And then when my soul was full of the things that I was remembering, then as you said, it just poured out of me. And it was like, oh, how could I not offer this to the people that I can feel that resonance with, that are where I was, that have those bits of curiosity, or the like something's off here.
Mhm.
And that's been like woman after woman after woman in my life. And then men started rolling in with the same like, oh, well,
Mhm.
there's something else to this, right? And that has even taken me by a big wave of loving surprise, I would say, over the last like 10 years, of how many men really want to come in and learn and be inspired and have all of these questions about the depth. Because, like, yes, we have this priestess line that though the priests are there, there's just been so much dogma put.
Bastardization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And power really like stripped from men in the way that they could enact divine masculine
Yep.
power, and pedestaled in this other way that's not working
Yep.
and is not continuing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're like, that's a whole other podcast episode. And if you guys
Oh,
want to hear it, let us know. But that's a
sure
whole
is. Yep,
piece.
that's a whole other thing. And I'm like, I'm just gonna like butt up to the door on that one, and we're gonna come back over here.
Recovering Catholics with the Chicago Pope. That's a whole other episode.
Oh, can it be?
Yes. Yes.
Great,
Kelsey,
great.
I wanna grab something, as I always do. I want to grab the witch part because I speak to my witch being my human, corporeal, of the earth magical worker, and my priestess being the cosmic, etheric, akashic magical worker. And so you mentioned coming to the witch first, and then, that resistance to priestess because of the dogma and because of the growing up in that space. Because priestess does kind of feel like the counter to priest or pastor. And when priest or pastor has been so bastardized for you for so long, the idea of being the divine counterpart to that just feels like, for those of you who can't see me, I'm two middle fingers in that direction.
Both.
So, like, I really want to touch on that both for everyone to hear, but also selfishly because that is so much my experience and my reverence and how I identify as both a witch and as a priestess.
Yeah, I really, really love the felt sense of you sharing how it's this grounded, earthy, connected to the earth part, and then the astral, more cosmic, divine lineage, Akashic records. I feel very similarly. And in that, I think that's why my soul, my body, my heart felt so drawn to going through the witch path first, especially okay, so one, I was like, I'm getting ahead of myself. The connection to the earth and the elements it's right here. It's tangible, right? And there is a felt sense of that lineage in our timeline on earth, not being that far away, right?
Yeah.
Like our ancestors came from this path of the witch, and that happened more closer to our timeline now than the full path of the priestess, right? Where there were temples devoted to honoring us and holding space so that we could help then the world heal and change and create. Like that was farther away. And there is a big calling within me to also push up against. There was some of this is where I'm going to speak to my own personal experience. Like I had some of the anarchy, I had some of that rebel, I had some of that sacred angry woman, that wild feminine that wanted to get in the nitty gritty of magic. And the fact that, again, if we're talking about the pathway to Catholicism and all of the things, I was burned at the stake, right?
Yep.
Like our ancestors were burned at the stake for being healers, for being priestesses, not even for being witches, right? For being the medicine women of the time with power and voices and
And
things
money.
to act and
And
money.
money and property and sovereignty. But like
Yep.
they burned wealthy women, they
Well,
burned property owning women, they burned the women who could solve not only your cold, but could help you birth your baby and could guide you through the like issue with your family dynamic. Like so much. They wanted to strip power. So it wasn't just the witch that got burned. So many of us didn't identify as witch when we got
right.
burned. And yet
That.
we were still magical and we were still more than just corporeal. And it's women who were resourced and who understood beyond a shadow of a doubt that they were more than just their bodies. Though,
Oof.
and so many of them not under their own self-container of witch. And so reclaiming the word witch has been a huge part of, like you're saying, not just me individually, but our timeline, because we're so close to it, like biologically speaking, blood and bone lineage
Right.
wise.
And
Yeah.
that where it comes to the elements, the alchemical part, the blood, the bone, the cell, the matter, like all the skin, the teeth, the nails, right? Like that is so close to where we are now. And it is a word that was chosen to take our power away. And it still is so much these days, right? Like they're the hag, they're they're the ugly witches, they're green, they're warty, they're nasty, they're eating children, they're all these terrible things that instills all of this fear timeline. And for
Yes.
me personally, as this like youthful, wild woman, I was like, I want to go into that. I
Yep.
want my power back from that.
That's probably it. That's probably the answer. Yep. I'm like, I
Eh,
gotta, I gotta tell you this here and now in this portion of our conversation. I've had the funniest experiences with my daughter around witch in particular, because there was a moment where we were sitting in the group of like all of her, parent guardians, and it's her father, the man who I had her with, and his now wife, and me, and there were two of my partners at the time. And he has been telling her that like witches aren't real and like certain aspects of magic, like the man
Yeah.
has Santa Claus in his house and they have elf on the shelf, but like is also telling her witches aren't real and magic isn't real in these certain ways. And she literally stands up to him and she goes, so you don't believe in my mommy then? And he's like, wait, what? And she's like, she's a witch and she's right there, so you don't believe in my mommy? And he's like, no, Everly, like obviously I believe in your mother. And she's like, but she's a witch. And I'm just like, you are like, you're causing a pretty difficult thing, bro. Like you knew who and
Yeah.
what it was before we
Yeah.
made this. Like we literally practiced conscious conception. Like I told my boss at my corporate job, I will be pregnant January of 2019. And he was like, you can't. Oh, yes, I can,
I
sir.
can.
One time,
Oh, but I
one time,
can.
conscious conception. Like I knew when that egg opened up and received that. Like I knew immediately. Like it was
Mhm.
in so much sovereignty and like it was
Your birth
just
story is my favorite, by the way.
Mhm.
My
Oh yeah.
favorite.
Well,
Maybe that's another podcast together, but wow. Wow, wow, wow.
wild
This lady's
pregnancy with free birth and absolute power and absolute perfection. I will tell you guys the story at some point.
it's
But like
so good.
this little baby stand up to this like, and he's a big man, so like
Mm.
she's standing and she's not even taller than him when he's seated, and she's standing, and she is just the embodiment of everything that I had to like deconstruct and unweave to get to this like, no, I'm gonna reclaim this word witch, and it doesn't mean what you think it means, it means what I make it mean, which is I
Mm.
understand how to navigate the no thing space. I know how to make magic out of the space that is in between the matter. And we all know scientifically that there's a lot more fucking space than there is matter. And so, like, which is this reclamation? And to see her with her little finger being like, so you don't believe in my mommy? She's right. And I'm just like, oh, Everly, I
Oh,
love you
I'm
so much.
so proud of you. I'm honoring you as a mother, as a witch, as a priestess for really guiding this other beautiful feminine soul in to be like, absolutely not.
No.
Actually, I don't stand
That's
for
her
any of
favorite,
that.
actually. And I'm just like, yeah, girl, you take up space, you use that voice, you
Yeah.
stand up for what it is that you know to be true. Those capital T truths that our babies have. I mean, this little girl has talked to me about being a soul before she's come down into her body with zero prompting for me. Like, she has said some of the coolest things to me where I'm just like, I am in awe, and I'm constantly reminding her that, like, in the purity of childhood, you know more than I do. And
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that you can keep it, that you can hold on to it, that you will remember it, but also supporting her in the deep understanding that, like, a lot of people lose it as they turn into adults. And her having to come to terms with, like, mommy, you're like, I can't find another adult like you, and like, is that the way that it is? And I'm like, yes,
Mm.
and baby,
And
like, yes, and sweetheart, like, I'm gonna help you find more adults like that and find, other like people who have grown up and haven't lost their magic, their knowing, their connection to what was before. But you are also right. It's not as common because like you've met a lot of adults, and she's like, mommy, what's going on here?
these things are not the same. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And I'm just so I don't have a child in this lifetime, so I'm just so celebratory of you and your motherhood and how beautifully you're offering this sense of magic and of priestesshood and of the witch, but of the raw feminine and what that really means on all of these different levels to your little girl that gets to be raised in this space of not having all of the, again, like you said, like the weeds that you have to unlearn in order to reclaim who she really is.
Yeah.
And, you know, like it's going to continue. I have full trust that there are more really conscious priestess mothers out there in the world. It's just so stunning to see you really embody and be this and come to your own altar of motherhood consistently to learn and grow and apply and be raw and authentic with yourself first and foremost, and then with her, so
Yeah.
that that actually is rewriting the generational timeline and code before you. Like, you have actually been the pattern breaker, right? The
Yes.
generational stop point of this doesn't go past me. I'm not sharing this with her, right? And that is such a huge piece, I think, of also taking on the full reverence of I am priestess. What is that? How do I actually break generational curses, change patterns, create new experiences in this world? Like, you're weaving a whole new web, but from a foundation of a prior one. And that, I think, often doesn't even get a lot of understanding or reverence to it, because like we have that's more of the bridge. We have to be undoing all of our own patterns at the same time that we are creating new ones, and
Yeah.
how much energy and presence that takes for
Yeah.
ourselves, let alone our families that we then create from working in the no thing, right? And just as you created that being from the no thing.
It's
Stunning.
truly like it takes the level of presence of like unweaving a spider web and putting it delicately around the spool and then taking it and using that silk thread. And like it takes so much and it is so beautiful and it gives so much back, but it is such an undertaking. And there is so much silence to what it means to be a priestess. And there's so much behind the scenes, and there's so much in the stillness, and there's so much unspoken, and there's so much that is intangible that it's so easy for outside of it to overlook it or to diminish how meaty that really is. And I think bringing priestesses together for these conversations is a way to like allow others to see in. And a lot of times it is us holding it with such reverence and being like, okay, here, yeah, hold your hand like this. Just like when you're teaching a little one how to interact with an animal or how to interact with the sacred plants and like how to have that reverence so that you really can unweave a motherfucking spider web and reweave differently with the raw materials that you're given. And that to me is what in my lineage, the breaking of the generational curse had to be because I, like you described, was in that anarchist rage, aggressive, you know what I mean? Like, you know, there are no other words where it's just a gesture. And to go from that to the delicacy and the softness that it takes to unweave a spider web and use those raw materials, like I can't encompass what it means to mother and not just a baby, because we're going to get into the baby that you've birthed that is not a corporeal baby, but is a baby that you've taken from the etheric and birthed into the matter, and to be able to delicately pick up all these foundational building blocks and build with it in a new way in our schematic is it sounds little, but it's in the little, in the minute, in the subtle senses, in the delicacy of the silk thread that the priestess really like shows her power.
That's so beautifully. Thank you for the poetry. I'm just letting it seep in a little.
With the poetry, we gotta mention the witch wrap.
Oh my gosh, can we please?
Like, oh my God. I'm like, I have so many things I want to get to, but the witch wrap. She's like,
The witch
hang on.
wrap.
Before
That's
we
the one.
before we close the witch, she's like, we must state this. Kelsey and I
Yes,
have
please.
referenced that we shared services before, and we've actually been in session together. And during the session that I gave Kelsey, after Kelsey gave me a session, I accessed my witch wrap, which I had not let flow through me, and like it's not something that I can like choose to like reach for. It's not like an instrument where I can grab it and decide I'm going to play it. It flows through me when she is safe, when she is inspired, and when she is with another witch and we're like, so it's time to dance around the fire, baby. I will bring the music. And it poured forth and was so magical and reinvigorating, and I was beyond grateful.
I have full body chills remembering this moment. Like I'm literally gonna cry. It oh wow. Yeah, there was something, it just started to click in that moment where, like you mentioned, like the witch is safe. We are reverent into each other. And then there's just something that unlocks. And I mean, that shook us both. That's, like to how deep we went. And that's like to try to paint a picture for somebody who's like, what the heck is witch rap? Like if that's happening, right? Like, I don't know, the fantasy books that you want to create about like the witch around the cauldron that's got all of the rhymes coming through in like full spell alchemical magic, creating this like vortex torrent of energy. If we're using our magical, imaginations to really, that's what happened. That's what was coming out of Lindsay. And it was just this flowing, ongoing spell of perfect rhymes straight from the like womb of the earth. Like the amount of just you literally created worlds in that moment, and my whole body responded. And it was like, maybe those listening understand or speak light language, right? And how it just flows through and it comes out, and you don't really have like full sense of it, except this is real words, English-ish, words that are tangible and ish, right? And like some old English. Yeah, rhymey witch speak,
Yeah.
full rap poetry
Yes.
straight from the womb of creation. And it was unlike anything I've experienced, and man, do I hope I get to experience it again, because like I literally was like, does she do this all the time?
And I'm like, no, absolutely not. She rarely comes out. She's so particular, and like she just like crawls out of this like dark sand. She's so sultry, and
Yes.
she's so like deep in the pelvic cradle, and it's like tangy and like, oh, it was so
Ugh.
and it had been such a long time since I had accessed the witch wrap, and I was so grateful to you for being both the set and setting and in it with me. Like to have such I me, which is sacred reciprocity, and to be met so beautifully, and is the reason that I created this podcast, because I personally I want to be in space with other priestesses. I want what we don't get to have because we don't work in a building where we can bump into each other at the water cooler or go, oh, you're on lunch, like let's go together. Or right after work, like, do you want to go grab a drink? Like right after work, or at the Christmas holiday party. Like we don't get that. We are so separate and isolated, and we're doing work that is outside of the dimension of reality. And then we close the Zoom computer and we're like, okay, let me go make dinner and talk to my partner. Or like go clean the kitchen or like fold my laundry. And I'm like, I need, even having someone who I could talk to about it afterwards, who understood, like you inherently understood the magnitude of what it was without knowing whether I did that all the time or never did it, if there's the first time, and you understood at the feeling level. And then I got to like sounding board the words and let it like settle for both of us. And we were both just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Literally like the little Spider-Man meme of like, you were there, you were there, you were that. That really happened? That really happened? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It is. It's so potent and magical, and we can reflect that back to each other because you're deeply seen, felt, and understood. And a
Mm,
woman wants to feel that regardless
yeah.
of wherever their magic lies on the spectrum. But when you're there and you're so deep in it, and you're like, three people in the world have ever seen me at my depth ever, right? You know that, like, and that's something we get used to and we accept as part of this path. And then you find someone else that goes there with you and you're like, holy goddess, what just happened? I don't know what to do with myself.
This is why they have kept gathering from us, because the amplification, the feminine amplification is like lighting the candle. It does not take from me to grow you and to light you and to spark you. And this whole collaboration over competition thing has been a focus of not only me personally, but my professional practice. I bring people on to live streams all the time. I spotlight their services. I give them space to talk about who their ideal client is. And I've gotten a lot of feedback around it, especially the more businessy clients of mine are like, why do you do that? Like, that's another priestess. Why do you want to talk about how amazing her services are? Isn't that going to take from your clientele? And I'm like, no, not at all. And like, it's reworking that entire perspective that like, I want all of these people to understand more about who you are and what you do, and more about me and what I am and what I do. And I want all of them to find in the present moment who could support and expand and benefit them. And for some people, that might be you rather than me, or me rather than you. It might be you first and then me. It might be me first and then you. It might be someone totally different.
Right.
But it takes us being able to start that for people and showing people that like, it's not about you finding the like, what, like, we are all so gifted and there's so much magic to be shared, and we as the feminine rising can amplify each other, and it doesn't take anything away from us. It actually gives so much more. I get bigger and more grounded by collaborating. Ugh,
That, absolutely, yes, and I completely agree, and I love how it is such a pillar, a keystone in your magic, in your offering, in how you show up online, in the world, in person, all the things of this, again, the collaboration over the competition, like, you
yeah.
say that a lot, and it is so pinnacle in your offerings, and I love to experience that, and it's completely true for me too. And maybe people even watching this, listening, like, can feel that sense of us being together is only amplifying our magic more. And that I have so much more capacity and inspiration by co-creating things in this way. And how I don't witch wrap. Maybe I will someday, but I don't. So like, and then I'm weaving different timelines and threads that than you are. And like, so that's where there is just so much magic available, and it channels through us at different capacities at different times, or just different streams. We have different lineages, and some of them like overlap, and some of them don't. And that is why having spaces for priests to come together to gather this, when you told me this was an idea before the podcast birth, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. How do I get to be involved? Because that is 100% what we need, and why our power has been essentially like undermined or diminished, maybe not on a personal level, but collectively for sure, because we don't have these places to support and be like, oh, that's amazing. And then like throw more primordial fire
Yeah.
into the collective circle for all of us to feed off of. And there
Mm,
is so much magic available there. And I know any woman listening to this is like, whoop, I'm in. Like, I feel that.
yes.
Because it's so real in the body, like the womb, the heart, everything starts to open. Is like, oh, okay, that's a divine permission slip, and a little bit of this, and maybe we can collaborate here. And I find so much inspiration, and I just love that you're doing this and offering, and it is, you're so right, it never takes it away, it always just adds more, and this is only the beginning, and I'm so grateful to be in this space in our lives, in our own personal paths, so that we can connect with each other and with other priestesses in this way and really rewrite this story. And we want it to be global. We want it to be big. Like there's no more playing small in this. And like the voices are out. It's public. We want it to be heard. We're done with the processing in the caves, in the shadows. Like you and I both have such a big mission, and we've just taken really big steps
Mhm.
to offer things to the world that is on a global platform. And not everybody wants to go there, and that's okay. But I know you and I are so aligned with that space of like, this is our moment, no matter what starts to like come back and reflect or be projected into our field, it's time and
Yes.
we're ready.
Yes. Talk to me about what it took for you to get to this place of like, not only am I okay being perceived, but I desire the visibility. I
Mm.
desire to be seen. I desire to be at the forefront, and the reclamation that it takes where it's not just ego based, where you're like, okay, I'm human. There is a bit of the ego of like, I'm making a thing in my likeness or that I'm birthing that is from me that will then grow. But in that sense of, okay, I'm not just okay with it, but I desire it. And what it takes, especially with our lineage and history of like, okay, I've been burned for this before. I've been forced into the caves. I've been shunned. I've been left behind. I've been killed for this before. And now in this lifetime, I'm going to do it again, and it's going to be different this time. What was that process for you?
This is a hugely emotional and potent question for me personally. I'm just
Samesies.
gonna let I'm gonna let the waves of emotion be in me.
It's not a
Um,
little thing, guys. Like, it's
no,
not a one sentence answer. You're like, well, how much time do you have?
and this one, it's taken until like this moment, really. Like it
Yeah.
has only fully shifted for me, for anyone listening, like this year, right?
Yes.
Right now. Like we are midway through 2025. And I have done so much of my life path up into this in my magic, and yet it has still taken to this point. And there's a couple pieces that are really intrinsic to this answer for me. Um, One, I do base a lot of my life and speak from the point of astrology. So it'd be perfect that at some point during this conversation it would come up. So in my own personal chart, in everybody's chart, we have a north and south node. This is our like Rahu and Ketu in Vedic astrology. It's the head and the tail of the snake. And it's essentially our destiny line. That north node is where we're going, where our soul wants to embody and explore and really become, right? It is the fated arrow that we are guiding ourselves to throughout our lives and our choices. And then that south node is where we've come from. All of the codex and the knowledge and the potency of who we are that we already have been and that we already have behind us. And the places where we also on a shadow side could be comfortable or stagnant or play into that keep us playing small so that we don't reach that north node. Because in an astrology wheel, as most people at least understand that, the north and south node are directly across each other. So they're always opposite signs. So if that's like Capricorn and Cancer, they're directly opposing each other. So it's essentially you have to go from one side of the polarity to the other. And my north and south node, my south node, so where I'm comfortable and what I'm used to, is in Leo, the sign of the sun, the masculine, that ego piece that you're speaking into, that like, I'm going to be center stage, potentially just for the sake of being center stage, is like the shadow aspect, right? And just wanting to fulfill the monetary or the fame aspect of like, I want to be recognized for XYZ, whatever that is. So I came into this world, this lifetime, this physical version of me, already knowing what that feels like and having the felt knowledge encoded into myself of what it would take to be center stage and have the spotlight on me and be loud and proud about it, right? But then that north node, where I'm going, where my soul in this iteration wants to reach, is in Aquarius, is what is straight across, which is the sign of the collective. It is personality, the Aquarii eye. Yes,
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
really tapped into the third eye consciousness and coming up from that solar plexus and rising in, right? It's the air, it's the water bearer through the air. And yet there's been this push and pull, this back and forth of lessons in my lifetime here into this point in this conversation that have been back and forth to where I'm like, okay, so I have the sign of ego, but I have the sign of humanitarianism. And like, how can I be creating a offering to the world, but not feed my ego, but
Yeah.
use enough of my ego, because I actually think it's spiritual bypassing to say we don't need our
Yes.
ego at all.
Yes.
That's not
Agreed.
real. It makes us who we are. That's a
Honey.
different conversation.
Yeah. We'll just leave
Thanks for
that
agreeing.
nugget right here, fully
Yeah.
unpacked.
Yep. So our ego is just something we want to work with, not
Mhm.
fight against or completely remove. So in that, I've had to get really clear and go through lots of questions and dark night of the souls and like crying on the bathroom floor moments with myself about like, how do I balance this? And is even wanting to create something as big as what I have, which we'll get into,
Mhm.
and what is coming through me actually for people, or is
Yes.
it just to feed my own ego?
Yes.
And I have gotten back and forth in my own answer to that question so many times that it's held me back at some moments, but it's held me back to take me deeper.
Yes.
And it really has taught me a lot of what it means to be in integrity and to go through time and time again where that integrity in me is questioned outside of me
Yes.
and is damned and ridiculed hardcore so that I know where I stand and what is truth. Am I going to be knocked off? And am I going to like need a timeout and lick my wounds for a while? But am I going to get back up and know that what I'm building is bigger than me? And it is an offering to the world. And I came to this lifetime, this world living body consciousness of Earth School to do something important. And if I'm not going to build something for the collective, my soul's not going to feel actually expressed in that Aquarian nature. And the second part of this is what another piece it took to get here, since we've talked about the burning, Salem witch trials, like all these different pieces. So again, based on astrology, in 2020, in the fall, well, throughout 2020, as some may know, but most don't, the astrological alignment of the planets was the same as the witch trials in Salem. Like the planets all reconfigured to be mostly in the same signs and alignments as they were during that time. Now, my very first past life memory as a child, which that's a different story, but is being a witch in Salem and going through that timeline for myself. It was a visceral felt experience to the point to where at 11 years old, I asked to be taken to Salem because I had to go walk the streets and remember. So flash forward to 2020 in the fall, and all these alignments started happening in the sky again, which I was semi-conscious to, but didn't really give potency and awareness to
Yeah.
until that I was publicly burned at the stake. If you can't see me, I'm air quoting. Um,
Yep.
for my voice and for my magic and for offering a different opinion at that time in our world. And over 500 plus people essentially like lynched, burned, and ridiculed me and projected onto my field what like how they felt and their fears and their timelines. And that was such a moment of like question for me. I did get off the pedestal and lick my wounds. I
Yep.
was really really hurt,
Yes.
really, really hurt. And went through another moment of like, here it is. I'm just wanting to share magic and truth with the world. And I don't know if the world can handle it.
Yes.
And there was a visceral felt like recoiling. I did go back into the cave, and I know that I needed that to get to this point.
Yes.
I needed to feel it in this embodiment with the amount of knowledge and just like depth that I have cultivated to actually get brutally honest with what I am willing to put my voice up against and to. And
Yes.
finding that power of like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Like that adage, that was true. And it did kind of kill me. It did. And then the rebirth, the phoenix moment that came
We know
after
how to
that.
die.
Yep.
We know how to die. Like,
We know
let's
how to
be
die.
really clear about it. I know how to
Yep.
fucking die, guys, and come back. I know how to unmake and turn into the fucking goo and the chrysalis and be like the ego, the human, like, are we okay? Is this okay? I'm dying. I'm dead right now. And Cosmic Q is like, yeah, girl, we got it. Like, it's okay. And you're like, I don't know. And then all
Uh-huh.
of a sudden you're
Uh-huh.
like, I have fucking wings now.
Yep.
What? Yes. Oh, yeah. We do this a lot. And then you have that like little moment of like, oh, yeah, this is like we cycle in our corporeal lives
Mm-hmm.
outside of just the body in a way that a lot of, we'll use the term muggle, might not understand, might not have reverence for, might not respect, might think we're kooky dukes for. But you're like, no, I've died many times while still inhabiting this single body.
Absolutely. And every time it just creates more awareness and strength and like depth of empathy to go there with other people, because in our, priestess offerings, that's what we are helping to do. Like, and it felt as if the initiations through especially the Isis timelines, Kemetic timelines, like the rites of death and resurrection, right? Like I have been through different moments of these consistently, so that I am brought back to the altar of my power, but in a state of reverence and of honoring and like of sheer faith in that this is bigger than just this human experience. And because of that, because of these moments, I feel like they happen, and they happen in more of these like micro working. So this last 5 years, there's been multiple deaths that have come through. And again, I feel that there is a huge offering from these ISIS timelines through of like, okay, you're in the chamber of death, of rebirth, of the experience to be in creation, and especially to be in this mothering, as you said, like I'm birthing something really big, and it's not a physical child in this lifetime, though it is, right?
No.
Like birthing a legacy is creating life that sustains beyond you.
Yes.
And we do that into little physical baby forms, or we do that into legacy offerings that create waves in consciousness long after my physical form is gone. And
Yeah.
so, how can I really feel into the magic beyond this physical form? And these moments that have brought these death cycles have really helped me have a sense of that and believe in the space and the power of the spiritual, of the high priestess, rather than just that ego sense, and knowing it's not coming from there. And now come at me,
Yeah.
question me.
Beyond the
And
shadow
that's
of a doubt.
fine. There,
Yeah.
there's no way. There's no way now that that would affect me in the same way, because I know for truth that this is coming from something bigger than I just want to be seen. Like,
Yes.
absolutely
Yeah.
not.
And we both at very similar times we're going
Yeah.
through this to
Yeah.
get to this birth point. Me birthing this podcast, you birthing what you're birthing. And I want to give you the space to say it. I've had to hold back from saying it multiple times because I want you to be able to say it. And like for me, I had to lose my ability to stand in front of so many people, especially on the internet, and be so authentic and so outspoken and so like full in who I was, which I did at the very beginning of my like priestess career. And then I had that same thing that you're talking about, that attack. Mine was different. And I love the commonality that a lot of people will say, oh, if you're like berated for something that you're not, the whole like, oh, fuck you and your blue hair. And you're like, I don't have blue hair. I shouldn't care about that. Oh, well, I was called a cult leader and I'm not a cult leader, although maybe the like followers are going to be called a cult following. We'll see. I might get a little cheeky in that of the podcast itself. But like being called a cult leader, being accused of that, being told I'm a snake oil salesman, I shouldn't have been offended. Just like when you're attacked, you're like, no, 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 like this is, I shouldn't have been. And yet I was. And yet
Hmm.
it like took me out and down for a long time. And I had to, just like you're saying, do the work that it takes to get back up and go, no, it's not egoic. No, it's not, like they're not true with a capital T. Like I
Hmm.
am the Priestess. I do use the word divine on my website, and yeah, you can have an issue with it, but come at me now. And not only am I confident in and of myself now, but I'm going to build an entire legacy around bringing more priestesses together and each of us getting to establish, yes, that is my title. Yes, that is what I call myself. Yes, I do connect with God. I'm not the only one who can talk to God. I would love to teach you how to connect in a way that is authentic to you. But it does take us a lot of times going deep and going down and being so reflective and being so willing to look into that mirror for hours upon end, pulling and unweaving each of the things that, like, hey, it shouldn't have hurt that they said that. If I know that's not true, why is it hurting? Where is the little in that it has? Where's that little flicker or fleck or rip or tear? How is it getting in? Because it's not about them, it's about me. How am I allowing this in? It, not just consciously, but like, what part of me is allowing this in? What part of me is so scared that it is going to be me burned at the stake again, that I have to do that work to soothe that version of me so that I can stand in this fullness and launch a podcast that literally states I am a professional priestess.
Oh,
So after
I
that, we gotta give you the space. What's your birthing, girl?
oh, I'm so excited. I have chills everywhere. Well, one, I just want to finish that by offering so much love and reverence for your path through this, because I have not seen it all in physical timeline yet. I can feel so much of that, and it is the moments of really, like, filling those cracks with gold in ourselves to know that what we have to offer is potent and real and exists. And that's part of this reclamation. And what came really alive in the visionary aspect of when you were talking is, like, this going through the 7 gates of the underworld that Anana goes through to really be in this rebirth, right? Like the shedding, getting all the way down to the naked form of us with nothing else between us and that, like, death portal for the rebirth, for what really stands on the other side. And I feel so much of that within both of our journeys. It's taken you to this podcast that I know and trust is going to be a revolution for spiritual growth, and for the priestesses here to find a voice and a platform and a place to connect. Like, I feel this in every cell. It is here. And I then am in a beautiful experience and birth portal. The birthing has begun of building and birthing a church. I have had such a visceral response to even the word that is purposely how I have wanted to start this sentence. Obviously, we talked a bit about that already on this podcast, yet I am building a sacred container and space called Temple Satori, which is temple, space of honor and reverence and worship. And Satori is the path of divine awakening. It is a moment that you're touched by God, that comes into those middle spaces between the material, right? That is that path, that, like, bing on the third eye, but it moves, it changes form, and the human steps back in, we forget a little, and then the divine comes back in, and boom, another moment of Satori. So it's this divine awakening that is not samadhi or nirvana, if these are words that you understand, right? Of hitting a plate of just divine enlightenment, and that's it. We're all upper chakra and we're outside of the human experience. Satori is a moment of, like, you go in, it envelops you. It's this lightning bolt of knowingness, or a silk thread that comes through. And then it integrates, and then you move forward, and then there's another moment. And then there's another moment. I literally see it often as, and I would love to have this rendition at some point for the temple, of, like, the Michelangelo, like God fingers, and they're almost touching. But like some kind of, like, feminine, masculine aspect of that, because that is, and like the lightning ping in between,
Is it
that magnetic pull.
the hand and the clit, the finger and the clit,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
finger and the
Yeah.
pearl? Yes.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that. Oh yeah, that's a thing. We're gonna make notes of that.
That needs to be on a silk. Star?
Yep. Star. Yes, she'll be so down for that.
Oh my God.
Like a bit like a rose with a pearl and like the
Yes.
ping and like the
Very,
lightning
yes.
kind of like yes.
Georgia
I'm seeing the
O'Keeffe
visions.
meets Michelangelo's David. Yes.
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 Um and this is a legacy. It's a moment and I have set it up to be a religious nonprofit. So it is legally a church, a place of worship. And as I was setting it up, a friend asked me, do you really want to go through that? Do you really want to make it a church? You could just make it a nonprofit and call it a church. And I was like, absolutely not. That is not the integrity of the pillars. I want to go through, yes, the reclamation of the priestess path, of bringing the feminine face of God in divine union with the divine masculine that has been bastardized, right? And like bring that back in to where we then get to be these portals, but also the children of God. We are gods and there is God, like all creation. And how do we have a place, just as you're speaking, that we get to gather, that we
Yeah.
get to spend time together? Not you went to one breathwork journey, your
Yes.
Kundalini started awakening, and then you're going into some kind of psychotic loop and you don't know how to be held through that. No,
Yes.
not in my space, not in Temple Satori. I want the priestesses to have a place to live, to gather, to be in service and with each other. And then people get to come and participate and experience that and have offerings that are just throughout the days. And then I've joined forces with another nonprofit here in Salt Lake City, Utah, that is feeding people and creating gardens all over the valley and feeding people in need. They feed like about 200 families per week. And it's just
Plug it.
something that what was
Plug
that?
this. Tell
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Tell them
The
the dare.
village cooperative is stunning. I sit on the board. I have a board seat as the secretary for the village. And it's just such a masculine like pillar of support and cultivation. And then I am here to start to spearhead and create and birth this offering of Temple Satori to be the spiritual thread, to be a space that we get to actually be in this reclamation, and there gets to be the priests and the priestesses and these lineages. I want doulas to be in like your birth story. That's something within when the podcast for the temple starts, we have to have that because more of this where there's physical space. I've had multiple women, pregnant women in my community reach out and be like, I want to have my birth in your temple space, in your
Yes.
home, right? Like that is so beautiful to me. And I just want to create more of that essence. So essentially, having a picture of where like a ministry and an ashram and a community living all come together and fuse and have hubs all over the world. Like I'm not talking, oh, I just have one in Utah. Like this vision is coming through me and it is so big that I'm like, okay, I can see the first 3 places already in the States. And then beyond that, the world
Yes.
is my oyster. I don't know. Like, let's go. And the path of the goddess and what's come through. Mary Magdalene came to me as a, yeah.
I'm like, hi.
And hi. And
Hi.
I've done lots of work with her in the Path of the Rose. And there was a moment where us, the women in red, like I'm literally like, she is that energy that comes through me so often. And I a year ago would have never said out loud, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna build a church.
Yep.
Never. And then there was a conversation I had with her last winter and I went on a spiritual pilgrimage to do some grid work in Australia. And it was, I went through a rebaptism. So I was baptized in the church in Catholicism, right? And then I chose under the lineage of the rose to be baptized in the ocean off of an island, the biggest island on the planet, in these cosmic waters that are said to be created by a celestial priestess. There's a whole story and stepped into this. And in my like beautiful baptism that came from this conch shell and these roses and this whole moment, I was like, this
This.
is it. I
Yeah.
need to build this church. this is the moment where the priestesses come together. I want to create a space where we all get to offer these kinds of experiences and integration and holding. Like, I see them. So the baptisms, like us in the reclamation of our priestesshood, in our witch, in our divine feminine, in our herbalist, whatever it is for all of us, like that is a vision that I know gets to be real. And so, like, this, again, this is a legacy. It's a nonprofit because it's not mine. It is ours. It is collective. It is for the community. And I would love for this to be my life's purpose, to create something that lives on beyond, again, this physical form in its transition, because there's so much potency that can live in something this sacred. And how could I not? Like, I have to try. And it's happening. And I'm so honored and grateful for you to be sitting on the board as my secretary, to really come in with your knowledge and your ideas and your potency. And we already have such a incredible team coming together. All I had to do was say I wanted this, and the people that get it
Yeah.
immediately get it. And they look at me. I had this man that I've never met, I told like this much to, less than what I just said right now. And he was like, oh, I see what you're doing. You're
Yeah.
creating this battery, this generator, this force for the, and he like brought in all of these pieces and ideas. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I have been existing in so much like kind of like resistance and pushback that now, as soon as I got into alignment, the people are magnetized and they get it. I don't have to explain it. It speaks for itself. And that shift in awareness and in my body has created so much safety and so much softening and so much inspiration that this is the path that I have created essentially in the past timeline, that I'm finally like here and clear and know without a doubt that no matter the projections that are in the field, like this is it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to change the world.
Yes. That is Priestess Kelsey Isis of Temple Satori.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ugh, what what a way to pull back the veil and share with others what it means, what it takes, what we have gone through to get to these places, and like bringing the priestess back into the temple, back into our own version of the church, and reclaiming what the little us walking into church going, wait, why is it not right? Why is it not what you told me it's supposed to be? Why do I feel it when we sing, but when you talk to me and you tell me that I'm dirty and I'm bad and I'm wrong, and that I, as a young woman, need to sit up on the stage of the church in front of an old crotchety white man and tell him all the times that I masturbated this past week and a half because I'm bad and dirty and wrong. And when he tells me, say 3 Hail Mary, then it's all, what the fuck? And to have gone through so many of these things that we're just barely scratching the surface of in this depthful conversation, and to have burned and churned all of that, and to have birthed what you have birthed, and to have so beautifully brought so many people into it who are heart-centered and who are willing to show up and go, yeah, I'm in. And not just in lip service. I'm not just saying it. I'm not just doing the formality of typing out people's yeses and unanimous votes of everything that we're voting in, but that each and every one of us deeply believes, and that this is what each of our souls has been calling to. I am a priestess without a temple. And I remember when we used to have a temple. I remember when the community and the people, when they gave us food and when they put us out, and when we had the temple in the center of us all. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it. I'm so grateful to get to spotlight and share your story. And I will continue to do that in so many ways, in so many shapes, in so many forms, in so many episodes. And I'm just like blown away. I have not shown Kelsey the introduction to the podcast, but woman, you have hit on pretty much single line of literally what I have birthed as like, this is what this podcast is. And through our conversation, you have truly like hit on pretty much every single one of those pieces. So when I tell you guys we are building intentionally with these like foundational pieces, these core pieces that as priestesses, we look at each other and go, yeah, your way is completely different than mine. And yet, foundationally, structurally, I get it and I feel it. And I am in honor and reverence to you. And that just gives me more honor and reverence inside and of myself and my own practice. So
Mm,
thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you for who you are and what you're doing and what you have birthed and what you are going to continue to put into that and to receive from that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your container and your love and support. And you're so incredibly right. There is just so much intrinsic knowing and honor that comes from just choosing this path. And I know that will be felt from others listening to this. And the amount of inspiration and visions I've even just gotten right now in this
Yes.
last, even just 30 minutes of this conversation, right?
Yes.
Let alone the whole thing.
Yeah.
And how all of this gets to come together and we weave this so beautifully and support each other in bringing this to the forefront of consciousness and how much that gets to create an impact is so beyond nourishing and inspiring. And like, so I'm really excited to like take some notes and
Right.
start, yeah, putting in some of these visions and really creating. And that's where I feel like us coming together and you bringing in more priestesses creates a physical, tangible response, a call to action. That is what this is. Like, this Professional Priestess podcast feels like a call to action for all of us to step up, to
Yeah.
own it, and to love each other through it and support these pieces that, and we have these pillars, and this, it's a big
Yeah.
world, ladies. Like, let's go. Let's expand and really envelop the world in the nourishment that it needs right now.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm gonna have to add in the beautiful little clip of Elastigirl from The Incredibles into this. Leave the city and the world to the men. Girls, I don't think so. Like, yes. Of like call to arms. And I even said to Aspen when I was like building the intro, I'm like, I want to talk about priestesses, like how a lot of people talk about the guys on the front lines. Because
Mm,
like
mhm.
we are on the front
Yes,
line
yes.
of the spiritual motherfucking warfare. And because it's so intangible, it's so easy to just like, but we are on the front lines. We are
Mm,
deep in the soil, hands in the dirt, doing the grid work, like changing the collective, helping the planet to alchemize and being those beacons, standing as the lighthouse and beaming our light out into the fucking darkness and going, those who it resonates in my specific way, in my specific style for each of us, come follow the light and we empower the individual. It's not about being a cult leader. I'm not trying to get you to believe what I believe and do it the way I'm doing it. I am hoping that my beacon of light, my volume, my confidence, myself, yourself, us sharing this is going to bring you into your own reclamation, bring you into your own temple that is inside you.
yes. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. And so it is.
And so it is.
And so
Ah,
it is.
Kelsey,
But
how do they find you? How do they get more from you? How do they include themselves not only in your world, but in Temple Satori?
yes, absolutely. So on social media platforms, Temple Satori is something you just type in and follow. It's Satori. And then Kelsey Isis is how you find me across all platforms. Anything you type in Kelsey, Kelsey, right? Isis is the goddess, and the redhead, me, will show up. Whether it's TikTok or Facebook, Instagram, all the things. And so I have lots of ways to just get in touch with offerings or just in my life, in my sphere, say hi, have a shout out, connect. Like, let's connect on this priestess portal path, right? And also follow the temple, become a member, really get involved. Again, there will be branching out. Like Lindsay is in the Chicagoland area, and so I will be coming out there. It's where I'm from as well. And so there will be a hub there. That will be place number 2 for sure. There will be offerings. I'm coming in the fall, by the way. That's a different
Yeah.
conversation, but I will be there soon.
Yeah.
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 And then, and then I think I'm going to do probably a Florida coast somewhere down there, right? So just getting involved, even if you're like, I'm not, on the West Coast, that's okay. And then again, if we want to work together, anything like that, all of it can be digital or in person. And I love holding space and container, even if it's starting with an astrology reading, and channeling moment, and then deepening into what could be alive and spoken through the body, through the magic, through all of the multidimensional forms of our life. Yeah, I'm so, so excited. The Temple Satori website is being built at the moment. So that will be coming up here shortly as well. But again, just following us online for updates and things, it would be a perfect way to support and be involved. And I just am so, so, so grateful.
Everything will be available in our show notes. So you guys can head right there and click, and it will direct you out. And I will continue to update that. So when we do have the website and when there is even more from Temple Satori, I'll come back and continue to update it, because these are living, breathing things that we are birthing.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm
Thank
so
you
deeply
so much.
honored. Yeah, to open this container. Always, I love our conversations. They're so potent and poetic, and I can't wait for more. I'm so honored to be in your presence and in your love. Thank you for everything you're bringing to this world. It's
Right
divine.
back at you, baby. There is no better way to kick off this podcast than this exact conversation. And I'm so grateful for all the magical little things that came into being to create this moment.
Mm, thank you. Yes, queen.